She said, "Stay home. I'm too embarrassed to introduce you as my boyfriend." I replied, "I understood." Then I moved out for good. When she came home, the place was empty, along with a note that read, "You don't have to be embarrassed anymore. Just stay home tonight. I'm too embarrassed to introduce you as my boyfriend." She said it casually. No hesitation. No shame. Just annoyance, like I was making her life harder by existing. I'm Alex, 29M. My girlfriend is Jenna, 27F. We've been together just over 2 years, living together for 1. And yes, before anyone asks, this didn't come out of nowhere. But this was the first time she said it out loud. We were standing in our kitchen. She was wearing a dress she'd bought specifically for this work mixer, pacing while checking her reflection in the microwave door. I was leaning against the counter, keys in hand, ready to go with her like I always did. Her coworkers were meeting at some downtown bar. Marketing people. Lots of networking. Lots of pretending. I'd been to these things before, stood quietly, smiled, listened to inside jokes I wasn't part of. I never complained. This time, though, she stopped, sighed sharply, and said it. "Alex, just don't come," she added, rolling her eyes when I didn't respond fast enough. "I don't want to spend the whole night explaining what you do, or answering questions. It's exhausting." I asked, "Explaining what I do, or explaining me?" She scoffed. "Don't make it dramatic. You know what I mean." I didn't know what she meant. I worked a normal job. Nothing flashy. Nothing that impressed her coworkers who loved titles and buzzwords. Jenna loved to say she didn't care about status, but only when no one important was listening. I stood there longer than I should have, waiting for her to soften it. Laugh. Say she was joking. She didn't. "So you're embarrassed," I said. She shrugged. "Just tonight. Be supportive for once, okay?" That was the moment something shifted. Not loudly. Not all at once. Just a quiet click, like a door locking behind me. I nodded and said, "I understand." She smiled, relieved, kissed my cheek, grabbed her bag. What she didn't notice was that I wasn't upset. I was done. And while she was getting compliments under dim bar lights, I was walking through our apartment, seeing it clearly for the first time. What was hers, what was mine, and how little of it was actually ours. The apartment was too quiet after she left. Not peaceful, exposed. Like when a noise stops and you suddenly realize how loud it had been all along. I sat on the edge of the couch and replayed her words, not angrily, just clinically. Too embarrassed. Not inconvenient. Not tired. Embarrassed. Like I was a bad outfit choice. This wasn't the first time she'd minimized me. Just the first time she'd removed the filter. There were signs. Always were. Jenna had a habit of introducing me selectively. To her college friends, I was my boyfriend, Alex. To her coworkers, I was Alex. Just Alex. No title. No context. Sometimes not introduced at all. Once, at a birthday party, a guy asked how we knew each other. Before I could answer, she laughed and said, "Oh, we live together. Not we're together. Not we're dating." Like I was a roommate who wandered into the wrong room. I told myself she was private, career-focused, that I shouldn't read into it. Tonight proved I wasn't imagining things. I walked into the bedroom and opened the closet. My side was neat, functional. Hers spilled everywhere. Shoes she barely wore, clothes with tags still on them, options for lives she imagined but never lived. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't part of her future image. I was part of her present convenience. I pulled out a suitcase. Not dramatically. No anger. Just efficiency. The same way she approached relationships. Keep what's useful. Hide what doesn't photograph well. As I packed, my phone buzzed. "Jenna, at the bar. Already exhausted. You better appreciate me for this." I stared at the message for a long second. Appreciate her for excluding me. I didn't reply. Instead, I started making a list in my head. What I'd paid for. What was mine. What I'd quietly let slide because relationships are about compromise. Funny thing is, she thought she'd drawn a boundary. She didn't realize she'd handed me clarity. And once you have that, staying becomes the most embarrassing option of all. By midnight, I had filled 1 suitcase and 2 boxes. I didn't rush. I didn't spiral. I just moved through the apartment like a guest checking out of a hotel that had quietly overcharged him for months. Every item told a story I'd ignored. The coffee table I bought because she said hers was temporary. The TV I paid for because she wanted something presentable for guests. The dishes she picked but never washed. Her stuff stayed. Mine left. At 12:43 a.m., she texted again. "Jenna, why aren't you responding? Are you sulking?" That word, sulking, used to get under my skin. Tonight it landed flat. Like hearing an insult in a language you no longer speak. I typed, then deleted, then finally sent. Have a good night. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Jenna, wow, passive-aggressive much? I smiled for the first time all evening. She didn't know yet. She thought this was another one of those moments where I'd swallow it, wait up, maybe apologize for making her uncomfortable. She thought I'd still be there in the morning, coffee made, questions unasked. That's the thing about people who underestimate you. They build their entire sense of control on it. I slept on the bare mattress after stripping the sheets I'd bought. The apartment felt hollow, but lighter, like it had finally exhaled. Around 1:30 a.m. I heard laughter in the hallway, drunk, carefree. I imagined her coming home later, heels kicked off, talking about how annoying her coworkers were, how exhausting it was to be on all night. She'd expect me to listen. Instead, I set an alarm for 7 a.m. Not because I had work, because I had to move out to finish. And she had no idea that the version of me who waited around to be chosen had already packed his bags. I was halfway through my second box when the front door opened. It was 2:11 a.m. I didn't look up right away. I didn't need to. I could tell from the uneven footsteps and the way the door hit the wall that she'd been drinking, but not enough to be sloppy. Just enough to feel confident. Alex, she called out, dragging my name like it was inconvenient. In the bedroom, I said. She appeared in the doorway, makeup still perfect, irritation already loading behind her eyes. Her gaze dropped to the boxes stacked neatly by the wall. What's this? She asked. I taped one shut. My things. She laughed once. Not amused. Dismissive. Okay, dramatic much? What are you doing? Making a point. I stood up slowly. No, I'm packing. Her expression shifted. Not fear, not concern. Annoyance. Like I'd changed plans without consulting her. Because of that, she said. Alex, seriously? I told you it was just tonight. You didn't say tonight, I replied. You said you were embarrassed. She crossed her arms. You're being sensitive. Everyone there is ambitious. I just didn't want to explain things. There's nothing to explain, I said. I'm your boyfriend. Or I was. That stopped her for half a second. Then she sighed. Don't do this. You're overreacting. There it was. The script. Dismiss, minimize, wait for me to fold. I picked up another box and carried it toward the door. Are you actually leaving? She snapped. Yes. Her laugh this time was sharper. You'll be back by morning. I turned to her. No. She tilted her head, studying me like she was trying to find the crack, the hesitation. When she didn't, her tone hardened. Where are you even going? Somewhere I don't have to shrink, I said. She rolled her eyes. God, you're exhausting. That was the breaking point. Not the insult, but how easily it came. Like she'd been holding it back for a while. I grabbed my jacket. As I reached the door, she said, You're really going to throw away 2 years over one comment? I paused, hand on the knob. No, I said calmly. I'm leaving because you already did. And for the first time all night, she didn't have a comeback. I didn't go far that night. Just drove until the city lights thinned and the noise in my head finally shut up. I checked into a cheap extended stay place near the freeway. One of those spots that smells like detergent and old carpet, but asks no questions. At 7:06 a.m., my phone started vibrating like it was possessed. Jenna, where are you? Jenna, are you seriously still doing this? Jenna, Alex, answer me. I let it ring. Took a shower. Drank bad coffee from a paper cup. For the first time in months, my chest didn't feel tight. At 8:12 a.m., she called. I answered. What the hell is wrong with you? She snapped. No hello, no concern. Do you have any idea how insane this looks? I said nothing. You embarrassed me, she continued. I came home and half your stuff was gone. Do you know how that feels? That almost made me laugh. So you are gone, she said, quieter now. Yes. Silence. Then a different tone, measured, strategic. Okay, you're upset. I get it. But you're being dramatic. Come home and we'll talk. We already talked, I replied. You were embarrassed to introduce me. That told me everything. That's not what I meant, she said quickly. You're twisting it. I'm taking it exactly how you said it. She exhaled sharply. You're really going to throw away stability for pride? That word again. Stability. As if I was a fixed asset she'd misplaced. I'm not throwing anything away, I said. I'm taking myself out of something I don't belong in. Her patience snapped. You're not special, Alex, she said coldly. Do you think guys like you are hard to replace? There it was. The truth, finally unfiltered. I closed my eyes. Not in pain, just in confirmation. You won't have to replace me, I said. I already did. I hung up before she could respond. I still had my key. I hadn't given it back because I knew I'd need one last trip. At noon, I went back to the apartment while she was at work. I took the rest of my things, quietly, cleanly. I left the key on the counter. And on the fridge, held by a magnet she bought on a work trip, I left a note. 4 lines. No insults. No explanations. Just the truth she'd handed me and didn't expect me to accept. She wouldn't read it until she came home. And when she did, the apartment would finally match how she'd treated the relationship, empty. She got home at 6:18 p.m. I know because that's when my phone lit up like a fire alarm. I didn't answer the first call, or the second, or the third. By the fourth, a text came through. Jenna, what is this? What the hell is this note? I pictured her standing in the kitchen, heels kicked off, scanning the apartment like something might jump out and explain it for her. The couch bare of my throw blanket. The closet suddenly uneven. The quiet louder than any argument we'd ever had. The note said, "You told me you were embarrassed to introduce me as your boyfriend. You don't have to be embarrassed anymore." That was it. No signature. No explanation. No invitation to debate. The phone rang again. I answered this time. "Are you serious?" she demanded. "You left a note like you're some kind of movie character?" "It wasn't for drama," I said. "It was for clarity." "You blindsided me," she snapped. "Normal people talk through things." "I tried," I replied. "You dismissed it." "That's not fair," she said quickly. "You're acting like I cheated on you." "I'm acting like you were ashamed of me," I said. "Because you were." Her voice dropped. "Dangerous now. You're ruining this over ego." "No," I said. "I'm ending it because you don't respect me." She laughed, short, bitter. "Respect? You really think you're some prize?" I waited a beat. Let her hear the silence. "I think I'm worth being acknowledged," I said. "And if that's too much for you, then yes, I should leave." She swore under her breath. "So that's it? You just disappear?" "I moved out," I corrected. "I didn't disappear. I chose myself." She didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice had changed again, tighter, unsure. "You'll regret this," she said. "You're going to realize how stupid this is." "Maybe," I said calmly. "But I'd rather regret leaving than regret staying." She hung up. I sat there afterward, phone in my hand, waiting for the wave. Panic, doubt, loneliness. It never came. Just relief. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't trying to prove I deserved to be seen. I wasn't shrinking to fit someone else's image. And whatever she told her coworkers, her friends, herself, she would never again have to explain who I was. Because I wouldn't be there to hide. The first night alone felt strange. Not lonely, just unfamiliar. Like sleeping on the opposite side of a bed you've been shoved to for years. I unpacked slowly. Put my clothes in drawers that only held my things. Set my toothbrush in a cup without silently negotiating space. It was quiet in a way that didn't demand anything from me. Around 10 p.m., her name popped up again. "Jenna, I told my friends what you did. Everyone thinks this is insane." I stared at the screen for a long moment before replying. "That's okay." 3 dots appeared instantly. "Jenna, you really don't care, do you?" I typed, erased, then finally sent the truth. "I cared for a long time. You just didn't notice." Her response came slower this time. "Jenna, you're acting like a victim. That one used to get me defensive. Tonight, it didn't. I'm acting like someone who listened." Minutes passed. 10, 15. Then, "Jenna, you made me look bad." There it was. Not hurt. Not loss. Image. I set my phone down without responding. The next few days were quiet on my end and chaotic on hers. Mutual friends reached out, confused, careful. I didn't trash her. I didn't explain in detail. I just said she didn't want to be seen with me. So I left. Funny how simple the truth sounds when you stop decorating it. On day 4, she showed up at my place unannounced. I hadn't told her the address. She'd figured it out through a friend. She stood in the hallway, arms crossed, scanning the space like she was assessing a downgrade. "This is where you ran off to?" she asked. "I moved," I said evenly. "I didn't run." She scoffed. "You could have talked to me instead of doing all this." "I did," I replied. "You just didn't think I'd act on it." She stared at me, finally realizing something had shifted, that I wasn't trying to convince her of anything anymore. "You really think you're better off without me?" she asked. I held the door open. "I already am." She stood there another second, then turned and walked away, heels sharp against the floor, pride intact, control gone. And for the first time since I'd met her, I didn't feel smaller watching her leave. I felt taller. A week passed. Then another. Her silence didn't mean peace. It meant regrouping. I knew that because on day 10, she posted a photo from that same bar she'd gone to the night she told me to stay home. Low lighting, careful angle, caption about new beginnings and knowing your worth. The comments were full of validation from people who only ever saw her side of things. Someone asked where I was. She replied with a laughing emoji and, "Oh, that didn't work out. Didn't work out." Like a canceled subscription. I felt a flicker of something then, not anger. Disappointment. Not in her. In myself, forever thinking she'd see me as more than something optional. Later that night, she texted again. "Jenna, I didn't mean it like that. You're twisting everything." I waited before responding. "You said you were embarrassed to introduce me as your boyfriend." A pause. "Jenna, you're being literal instead of understanding context. The context was you didn't want me there." Another pause. Longer this time. "Jenna, I just needed space to be myself." That one almost hurt, until I realized what it actually meant. She needed space to be someone I didn't fit into. "Then you got it," I replied. She sent one last message. "Jenna, you're really not coming back, are you?" I looked around my new place. The quiet, the order, the absence of that constant feeling of being tolerated instead of wanted. "No," I typed. "I already left." She didn't respond after that. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about winning or proving a point or even closure. It was about finally understanding that love doesn't require you to disappear in public so someone else can feel bigger. If being with you makes someone ashamed to say your name, the relationship ended long before you packed your bags. You're just the last one to find out. About 3 weeks after I moved out, I ran into her by accident. Grocery store. Tuesday night. Frozen food aisle. She looked different, not worse, just sharper, like someone trying very hard to look unbothered. When our eyes met, she froze for half a second too long. "Alex," she said, forcing a smile. "Wow, didn't expect to see you." "Hey," I replied. Calm, neutral, no spike in my pulse. She glanced at my basket, then at me, like she was searching for proof I was struggling. "So," she said, arms folding. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, I am." That seemed to irritate her more than anger ever would have. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said. "About us." "I figured," I replied. She stepped closer, lowered her voice. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just needed someone who fit better into my world." There it was again. Fit. Like I was furniture. "I know," I said. "That's why I left." She blinked. "You're not even curious what I mean." "I am," I said honestly. "I just don't need it anymore." Her mouth opened, then closed. For once, she didn't have a script. "You really changed," she said finally. "No," I corrected. I stopped adjusting. That landed. I could see it in the way her jaw tightened. "So this is it," she said. "You're just gone." I thought about the apartment. The note. The empty space she'd walked into. "I didn't disappear," I said gently. "You just didn't want to introduce me." For a moment, something like regret flickered across her face. Not enough to apologize. Just enough to sting. She nodded once. "Take care, Alex." "You too," I replied. As I walked away, I realized something important. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me who stayed quiet so she could feel impressive. And that version was gone for good. A month later, my life looked quieter from the outside. Smaller apartment. Fewer plans. No one asking where I was or who I was trying to impress. But inside, it was the calm that comes after you stop apologizing for taking up space. Jenna never reached out again. Not directly. I heard things through the usual channels. Mutual friends, half stories, careful phrasing. That she'd told people I was insecure. That I couldn't handle her world. That she was thriving now. I believed her. Because she always had been, just not with me beside her. One night, while unpacking the last box I'd avoided, I found an old photo. Us on the couch, early days. She was laughing. I was looking at her like she was the only person in the room. I didn't feel sad. I felt grateful. Grateful I hadn't begged. Grateful I hadn't argued. Grateful I hadn't stayed long enough to become invisible on purpose. People keep asking if I regret how abruptly I left. If I should have fought harder. If 2 years deserved more conversation. Here's the thing. When someone tells you they're embarrassed to introduce you as their partner, the conversation is already over. They've said the quiet part out loud. All that's left is whether you respect yourself enough to listen. I didn't storm out. I didn't punish her. I didn't try to win. I just moved out. And when she came home to an empty place and a note that said she didn't have to be embarrassed anymore, it wasn't revenge. It was alignment. She got the life she wanted, one where I wasn't standing beside her. And I finally got one where I didn't have to wonder why.